The night she finally gave in to her curiosity, the observer in the crystal grove. The crystal formations sang their eternal song as Maya adjusted the electromagnetic field reader, its soft beeping barely audible above the harmonic resonance of Vespera's twilight forests. She'd been stationed at the research outpost for 3 months now, and the planet's perpetual amber-violet dusk no longer disoriented her. Instead, she'd grown to love these quiet hours among the singing stones, where crystalline structures grew in impossible spirals toward the lavender sky. She made notations in her digital log, documenting the way the crystal's frequency shifted with temperature variations. The work was meditative, peaceful. Yet tonight, like so many nights before, the sensation crept along her spine, the unmistakable feeling of being watched. Maya straightened, pushing dark hair from her face as she scanned the grove. Shadows pooled between the crystal formations, deep and impenetrable. Nothing moved. Still, her instincts insisted otherwise. She'd mentioned it to her colleagues back at the main outpost, but they'd attributed it to isolation, to the alien environment playing tricks on human psychology. But Maya trusted her senses. "I know you're there," she called out, her voice swallowed by the crystal's song. "I'm not going to hurt anything. I'm just trying to understand this place." Silence answered her. She sighed and returned to her work. An hour later, as she packed her equipment, Maya discovered something new: a cluster of luminous flowers, arranged carefully atop her main console. They hadn't been there before. She was certain of it. The blossoms glowed with soft blue light, their petals translucent as glass. Native to Vespera, but not to this particular grove. Someone had left them deliberately. Her heart quickened. Maya lifted the flowers carefully, studying them in the dying light. They were beautiful, ethereal, a gift. She looked around once more, seeing nothing but feeling everything, the weight of attention, the presence of intelligence, the careful distance maintained. That night, she made a decision. Before leaving the grove, Maya placed her own offering beside the crystal where she'd found the flowers. A small photograph from Earth, showing mountains at sunset. She weighed it down with a smooth stone and spoke again to the listening darkness. "Thank you," she said simply, "for the flowers, for watching over me in the shadows beyond the crystal light." Fallon pressed deeper into concealment, but his heart thundered. She'd known. Somehow, the human woman had known he was there, and she wasn't afraid. He watched as she gathered her equipment and made her way back toward the distant lights of the outpost, her movements careful and respectful among the sacred formations. His people taught that outsiders were careless, destructive. But this one, this Maya, she moved through his world like someone trying not to disturb a dream. The photograph she'd left caught the twilight's glow. Fallon emerged only when he was certain she'd gone, approaching the offering with trepidation. The image showed a world of harsh light and impossible colors, a place utterly unlike Vespera's gentle dusk. Yet something in the sweep of those alien mountains, the way light touched stone, resonated with him. She'd shared a piece of her world. The gesture felt profound, intimate in a way he couldn't name. Phelan's fingers traced the photograph's edge. His people would condemn this fascination. Outsiders brought change, disruption. The elders had been clear: maintain distance, offer no welcome, wait for them to leave, as all others eventually did. But Maya didn't feel like the others he'd observed from afar. There was something different in the way she approached his world, with wonder instead of entitlement, with questions instead of assumptions. He shouldn't return. He shouldn't encourage this connection. Yet even as the thought formed, Fallon knew he would come back tomorrow night, and the night after. The pull was too strong, this curiosity too compelling. He wanted to understand her the way she sought to understand his world. The crystals sang around him, their songs seeming to carry approval or perhaps warning. Fallon couldn't tell which, and for the first time in his life, he didn't care. Crossing the threshold, the ritual continued for 17 nights. Maya would arrive at the crystal grove as Vespera's twin moons rose, casting their overlapping shadows across the formations. She'd work for hours, speaking aloud about her findings, her thoughts, sometimes her memories of Earth, and each night, she'd leave something small: a sketch, a piece of music on a data chip, a pressed flower from her hydroponics bay. Each morning, she'd return to find her gifts gone and new offerings in their place: smooth stones with veins of luminescence, seed pods that chimed like bells, Once, a piece of crystal carved into a shape that might have been a bird, or perhaps something from Vesperan mythology she didn't recognize. She was building a relationship with a ghost, and somehow it felt more real than any connection she'd made with her own species in years. Tonight, the air tasted different. Maya noticed it immediately, a metallic tang, a pressure building against her skin. Her instruments confirmed what her instincts screamed. An electromagnetic storm was gathering, one of the massive tempests that could fry unshielded equipment and cook organic tissue from the inside out. Damn, she muttered, frantically packing her gear. The outpost was too far. She'd never make it before the storm hit. Her emergency shelter might provide minimal protection, but these storms were notorious for their intensity. The crystal's song shifted, becoming discordant, almost frantic. Maya's hands shook as she activated the shelter's deployment sequence. The fabric structure began to unfold, its shielding circuits glowing weakly. Too weakly. She could already see the problem appear in the conductive mesh that would leave her vulnerable. No. Movement in her peripheral vision. Maya turned and saw him for the first time. He stood at the edge of the clearing, tall and lean with skin that seemed to drink in the twilight dark as Vespera's shadows, but traced with silver patterns that glowed faintly, like starlight caught beneath the surface. His eyes were enormous, reflective, holding depths that made her breath catch. Hair fell past his shoulders in waves the color of storm clouds. Beautiful, utterly, impossibly beautiful, but there was no time for wonder. He gestured urgently, pointing away from her inadequate shelter. The motion was unmistakable. Come with me, now. Maya hesitated for only a heartbeat. Then she grabbed her emergency pack and ran toward him. He moved like liquid shadow through the crystal forest, and Maya struggled to keep pace. The air grew heavier, charged with building energy. Her skin prickled with static. Behind them, the first bolt of electromagnetic lightning split the sky, turning twilight into blazing noon for one terrible instant. Fallon, though she didn't yet know his name, glanced back to ensure she followed. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Recognition, understanding, trust that shouldn't exist but did. He led her to an outcropping she'd never noticed, where crystals grew in a dome-like formation. A cave entrance, camouflaged by the angle of the light. He ducked inside, and Maya followed without question. The cave interior glowed with bioluminescent moss, revealing a space that had clearly been used before. Not a home, but perhaps a shelter, a refuge. The crystals here sang more softly, their tone almost protective. Outside, the storm broke in earnest. Through the cave opening, Maya watched reality itself seem to fracture, light bending in impossible angles, the air shimmering with visible energy. It was terrifying and magnificent. She turned to find him watching her with that same unwavering attention she'd felt for weeks. Now, seeing the source, the intensity nearly overwhelmed her. "Thank you," Maya whispered. "You saved my life." He tilted his head, clearly not understanding the words, but perhaps catching the meaning in her tone. Slowly, carefully, he raised one hand and pressed it flat against his chest. Then he pointed to her. Maya understood. She mirrored the gesture, hand over her heart, then pointing to him. "I see you. I acknowledge you." The storm raged outside, but inside the crystal cave, something infinitely more powerful was building. Fallon moved closer, his movements cautious, giving her every opportunity to retreat. Maya held her ground. She'd been reaching toward this moment since that first night, since the first gift of flowers. He gestured to the cave wall, where the electromagnetic charge was strongest. Then he did something unexpected. He took her hand. His skin was warm, the texture different from human skin, but not unpleasant, smoother, with a faint hum of energy beneath the surface. Those silver patterns glowed brighter at the points of contact, gently. Fallon pressed her palm flat against the crystal wall. The charge that had been building in her body, dangerous, potentially lethal, suddenly grounded through the formation. Relief flooded through her. "Oh," she breathed. That's how your people survive these storms." He nodded, understanding her comprehension if not her words. But he didn't release her hand. Instead, his thumb traced across her knuckles, a question, an exploration. Maya's other hand rose of its own accord, hovering near his face. He went very still, slowly, giving him time to refuse. She let her fingers brush the silver patterns tracing his cheekbone. His skin was warm beneath her touch. The patterns seemed to pulse with light where she made contact, and she felt an echo of something. Emotion, perhaps. A sense of wonder that matched her own. The storm screamed outside, but neither of them looked away. Language of touch and twilight storm lasted until dawn, or what passed for dawn on Vespera. A subtle brightening of the eternal twilight. Maya woke to find herself curled against the cave wall, Thalon sitting nearby. Watching the last lightning flicker across the sky, he turned when she stirred, and his expression, so alien yet somehow readable, showed concern. "I'm okay," she said softly. "Thanks to you." She sat up, muscles stiff from sleeping on stone. Thalon moved closer, offering a container woven from some kind of plant fiber. Water, clean and cold. Maya drank gratefully, aware of his attention tracking her every movement. When she handed back the container, their fingers brushed again. That same pulse of light beneath his skin, that same hum of connection. "I'm Maya," she said, touching her chest. "Maya." He repeated the gesture to himself, then looked at her questioningly. "Thalon," he said, his voice like wind through the crystal formations, resonant, multi-layered, beautiful. "Thalon," Maya repeated, and watched something kindle in those deep eyes. Pleasure. He was pleased she'd learned his name. The ice was broken. Over the following days, they built a bridge between worlds. Thalon came to her grove each evening, no longer hiding. He taught her which plants were safe, which crystals grew harmonically, and which created dangerous resonance patterns. Maya showed him her equipment, her photographs, her notes. They developed a hybrid language of gestures, drawings in the dust, and an evolving vocabulary of shared words. But it was touch that spoke loudest. Thalon's people. Maya learned, communicated emotion through contact. The patterns on his skin weren't just decorative, they were responsive, expressive. When he was curious, they brightened. When uncertain, they dimmed. And when his hand rested against hers, they pulsed with a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. "Like this," he murmured one evening, taking her hand and pressing it flat against his forearm. Beneath her palm, she felt the ebb and flow of something like electrical current. I feel it," Maya whispered. The sensation was intimate, as if she were touching not just his skin, but his emotions directly. She felt his calm, his contentment, and underneath something warmer, something that made her breath catch. Thalon's fingers tightened on hers. "You feel?" he asked, his grasp of her language still uncertain, but growing. "Yes," she met his eyes. "I feel you." They sat together as the moons rose, shoulders touching, hands intertwined. Maya found herself tracing the patterns on his skin, following their flow from wrist to shoulder. Each touch brought that pulse of connection, that sense of understanding deeper than words. "On Earth," she said quietly, "we don't have this way of sharing." Thalon's free hand rose to her face, hovering just short of contact. "A question." Maya nodded. His fingertips brushed her temple, feather light. She felt him trying to sense her emotions the way his people would. And though her skin didn't glow with responsive patterns, something of what she felt must have translated. His eyes widened. "Maya," he breathed, and the way he said her name carried wonder. She turned into his touch, her cheek resting against his palm. This was dangerous territory. She knew it intellectually. Attachment to an alien being, to someone whose culture she barely understood, whose people shunned outsiders. But her heart refused to listen to logic. "Thalon," she whispered back, and covered his hand with hers. They stayed like that as the crystal formations sang their evening song, to beings from different worlds discovering that connection needed no translation. When Thalon finally drew her closer, tucking her against his side, Maya went willingly. His arm around her shoulders felt like the most natural thing in either of their worlds. "Your people," Maya said eventually, reluctant to break the spell, but needing to understand. "They don't approve of you being here with me." Thalon's patterns flickered conflict. She was learning to read. "No, they fear change. Outsiders bring disruption. Am I disrupting you?" He looked down at her, and his patterns blazed bright as stars. "Yes," he said simply. "Then, good disruption." Maya laughed softly. "I don't want to cause you trouble. You cause." He struggled for the word. then placed her hand over his heart. Beneath her palm, she felt the rapid rhythm, the warmth, the pulse of those luminescent patterns. "This, you caused this. I feel it too," Maya admitted. "This pull, like gravity. Like I was supposed to find you." "Supposed," Fallon repeated, testing the word. His thumb traced her jawline, learning the architecture of her face. "Yes, supposed." The touches grew bolder as the nights passed. Maya learned that the patterns on his skin were most concentrated along his spine, his ribs, the inside of his wrists, places of vulnerability. When she traced them there, Thalen's breath would catch, his eyes darkening with something that transcended species. One evening, she found him waiting at her grove with tension radiating from every line of his body. "What's wrong?" He took her hands, holding them tightly. "I want show you. Place, important place." He gestured toward the deeper forest, where Maya had never ventured, but is forbidden for outsiders. "Then we shouldn't." "I choose," Fallon interrupted, fierce. "I choose show you. You are not just outsider. Not to me." Maya's heart hammered. "Fallon, I don't want you to risk." He kissed her, not like humans kissed, but his way forehead pressed to forehead, breath mingling, hands cupping her face as his patterns blazed so bright they illuminated the space between them. The emotion that poured through the contact was overwhelming, desire, determination, something that felt remarkably like love. When they parted, Maya was shaking. "I choose," Fallon repeated softly. "Come with me." She should refuse. She should maintain professional distance, respect cultural boundaries, protect them both from the consequences. Instead, Maya laced her fingers through his and said, "Show me." The forbidden grove. They traveled deeper into the crystal forest than Maya had ever ventured, following paths that seemed to exist only for those who knew where to look. Fallon moved with confidence here, his bioluminescent patterns providing gentle light as the twilight deepened around them. The crystals grew larger as they walked, their song becoming richer, more complex. Maya felt the harmonics in her bones, a resonance that made her think of cathedrals, of sacred spaces humans built to touch something greater than themselves. "The Heart Grove," Fallon said quietly, pausing at the edge of a clearing. "Where memory lives." Maya stepped forward and gasped. The crystals here grew in formations that defied logic, spiraling upward in impossible helixes, branching into fractal patterns that seemed to contain infinite complexity. But it wasn't their size or shape that stole her breath. It was the light. Each crystal pulsed with internal luminescence, and within that light, Maya could see images, memories, faces she didn't recognize, scenes from Vespera's history, moments of joy and sorrow captured in crystalline amber and preserved for eternity. "Your people's history," she breathed. "It's all here, every life, every memory. When my people die, we bring them here. Their patterns," Fallon touched his chest, indicating his own glowing tracery, "transfer to crystal. They sing forever." The magnitude of what he'd done struck her fully. This wasn't just a forbidden place, it was the most sacred space his people had, their collective soul. And he'd brought an outsider, a human, into its heart. "Fallon," Maya whispered, turning to him, "you could be exiled for this, I know." He stepped closer, taking her hands. In the grove's radiance, his patterns shone brilliantly, silver and blue in colors she had no names for. "I know what I risk, but you should understand, should see, what my world is, what I am." He led her deeper into the grove, to a crystal that pulsed with particular warmth. Carefully, reverently, Fallon placed both their hands against its surface. The memory that flooded through Maya was overwhelming, a child's perspective, looking up at faces filled with love. Thalen's parents, she realized. This was his family's memorial. "They taught me," Fallon said softly, "that connection is sacred. That understanding is worth risk. They would want," his voice caught, "they would want me to follow what calls to me, even if it calls across stars." Maya felt tears on her cheeks. The intimacy of this moment, standing in his people's most holy place, touching the memory of his loved ones, feeling the weight of his choice, was almost too much to bear. "I'm not worth exile," she said. Though her heart rebelled against the words, Fallon cupped her face, tilting it up to meet his eyes. "You are worth everything," he said fiercely. "You are worth choosing, worth risking." Maya, I have watched you for months. I have seen your curiosity, your gentleness, your respect for my world. You touch Vespera like it is precious. You touch me like I am precious. You are, Maya whispered. God, Thalon, you are. He kissed her again, deeper this time, learning the taste and texture of her mouth, different from his people's kisses, but no less profound. Maya's arms wrapped around his neck, pulling him closer, needing to eliminate any distance between them when they broke apart, both breathing hard. Thalon rested his forehead against hers. I want to share everything with you. My world, my life, myself. I want that too, Maya admitted. I want it so much it terrifies me. Then be terrified with me. His hands traced down her arms, leaving trails of light where his patterns touched her skin. Be brave with me. Choose this. Choose us. The crystals sang around them, a chorus of ancient voices bearing witness. Maya thought of all the memories contained here, all the love stories that had played out across generations. Surely some of those had been forbidden too. Surely some had required the same courage she was being asked to find. What happens now? She asked. When your people find out, they will be angry, afraid. Thalon's thumb brushed away her tears. But they will also see that I am happy, that you bring no harm. Maybe they will learn, as I have learned. And if they don't? His patterns dimmed slightly. Grief, acceptance. Then I choose you over their approval. I choose this connection over their comfort. Maya pulled back enough to truly look at him. I would never ask you to abandon your people. You don't ask. I choose. Thalon's hands moved to her waist, tentative but growing bolder. Maya, on your world. When do people feel this way? What do? Maya's breath hitched as his touch wandered, exploring. They come together. They share themselves, body and heart and mind. Show me, Thalon whispered against her temple. Show me how your people love. Maya's hands found the fastenings of his clothing, fingers trembling. Only if you show me yours. What followed was a conversation without words, a dialogue of touch and breath and wonder. They learned each other slowly, carefully, with reverence for the gift they were being given. Thalon's patterns blazed brightest where Maya touched him, creating constellations of light across his skin. Her soft sounds of pleasure made him shake with want and tenderness. Among the singing crystals, witnessed by generations of memory, they discovered that desire needed no common language, that two bodies from different worlds could fit together with startling perfection, that pleasure could be both fierce and gentle, both familiar and utterly new. Afterward, they lay tangled together on Thalon's discarded cloak, the crystal grove painting them in shifting colors. Maya traced the patterns on his chest, watching them pulse in contentment. The crystals. She murmured, are they recording this? Will this memory be here forever? Thalon caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. Yes, our choosing will be remembered. Let them see. Let them know what came from courage. Maya nestled closer, feeling his heart beat against hers. I love you, she said simply. I don't know when it happened, but I do. Love, Thalon repeated, testing the word. Then he said something in his own language, the syllables like music. This is our word, for the choosing that binds souls. Teach me to say it. He did, patiently correcting her pronunciation until she could shape the sounds. And when she spoke the word back to him, his patterns flared so bright the entire grove seemed to catch fire with reflected light. I love you too, Maya of Earth, he said in her language. I choose you. Today and all days after, the crystals sang their approval, their ancient song carrying new harmonics, the sound of boundaries being crossed, of worlds meeting, of love declaring itself against all odds. Tomorrow would bring consequences, but tonight they had each other and the blessing of memory eternal. Dawn's first light. Maya woke to wrongness. The quality of light filtering into the heart grove was different. Not the familiar amber violet of Vespera's eternal twilight, but something warmer, golden, almost like. She sat up sharply, disturbing Thalon beside her. Thalon, look at the sky. He rose, confusion clearing into shock as he saw what had captured her attention. Through the gaps in the crystal canopy, the sky was changing. The perpetual dusk that had blanketed Vespera for thousands of years was brightening, shifting towards something unprecedented. Impossible, Thalon breathed. The twilight never changes, never. but it was changing. Even as they watched, the sky lightened further, taking on hues neither of them had seen except in Maya's photographs of Earth. The crystals around them began to sing differently, not their usual harmonic resonance, but something that sounded almost like excitement. "We need to get dressed," Maya said, scrambling for her clothes. "Your people, they'll be coming to see this, and if they find us here..." They'd barely finished dressing when voices echoed through the forest. Thalen's hand found Maya's, squeezing tightly. "Whatever happens," he said, "I don't regret. Neither do I." The first of Thalen's people to enter the Heart Grove was an elderly woman. Her patterns faded with age, but still beautiful. She stopped when she saw them, her eyes widening first at their presence, then at their joined hands. "Thalen," she said, her voice carrying disappointment and something that might have been grief. "What have you done?" Others followed, dozens of Vesperans emerging from the forest paths. Drawn by the changing sky, they filled the grove, and Maya felt the weight of their attention like a physical force. Many looked angry, others merely shocked. None looked welcoming. "Elder Sion," Thalen said, stepping forward but not releasing Maya's hand. "I have brought an outsider to the Heart Grove. I accept responsibility for this choice. This is sacrilege," another voice called out. "The sacred memories are unharmed," Thalen interrupted firmly. "The crystals sing as they always have. The memories remain. I have dishonored nothing except outdated fear." The elderly woman, Elder Sion, moved closer, studying Maya with intense scrutiny. "You are the researcher, the one who came to study our world." "Yes, Elder." Maya met her gaze steadily, refusing to show fear. "I mean no disrespect to your people or your sacred spaces. I would not have come here without Thalen's invitation." An invitation he had no right to extend. Sion's patterns flickered with complex emotion. "Our laws exist for reason. Outsiders bring change, disruption. I bring love," Thalen said quietly. The grove fell silent. "I love her, Elder, and she loves me. Is that disruption? Or is it what the Heart Grove has always celebrated, the choosing that binds souls?" Murmurs rippled through the assembled Vesperans. Maya felt hope kindle and die in the same breath. These were his people, his community. She was the intruder, the variable that didn't fit. Then something extraordinary happened. The sky brightened further, and the first true ray of direct sunlight in Vespera's recorded history pierced through the crystal canopy. It struck the central formation, the largest crystal in the grove, and the memory contained within blazed into visibility. The entire assembly gasped. The memory showed two figures, ancient Vesperans, judging by their clothing. But one was clearly different, taller, with skin that didn't carry the distinctive patterns. The scene played out in crystalline light. The two figures meeting, touching, choosing each other despite opposition. The final image showed them together, patterns and plain skin intertwined. Radiating joy, the first choosing, Elder Sion whispered, stunned. "The story we thought was mythology was real." Another elder finished. "Our people weren't always alone on this world. We had visitors before." The sunlight strengthened, revealing memory after memory in the surrounding crystals. Other mixed pairings, scattered through Vespera's history, always rare, always controversial, but always preserved with the same reverence as any other choosing. Maya felt Thalen's hand tremble in hers. "We are not the first," he said wonderingly. "No." Elder Sion's patterns shifted, surprise giving way to something that might have been acceptance. "You are not, though we had forgotten, or chosen to forget." She looked at Maya again, her expression softer. "Perhaps the dawn comes to remind us that isolation is not the same as preservation. That connection has always been part of our story." The crowd's mood was shifting. Maya could feel it, resistance giving way to curiosity, fear transforming into wonder. The unprecedented sunrise seemed to have shaken something loose in the collective consciousness. A younger Vesperan stepped forward. "If the memories themselves show such choosings, how can we condemn what our ancestors celebrated? The question," said another, "is whether we trust our traditions or only the parts that make us comfortable." Debate erupted, voices rising and falling like the crystal song. Maya and Thalen stood at the center, still holding hands, waiting for judgment or acceptance, whichever came. Finally, Elder Sion raised her hand for silence. "This requires discussion, deliberation. We cannot decide the path forward in a single moment, no matter how extraordinary. She looked at Thalon with something like fondness. But neither will I condemn what appears to have the blessing of the heart grove itself. The memories have spoken. We must listen. Thank you, Elder, Thalon said, bowing deeply. Cian's attention shifted to Maya. You will return to your outpost for now, but you will come before the council in 3 days' time. We will hear your intentions, your understanding of what this choosing means. I'll be there, Maya promised. And Elder, thank you for considering that this might be possible. As the crowd began to disperse, still murmuring about the sunrise and the revealed memories, Thalon drew Maya aside to a quieter corner of the grove. Are you all right? He asked, searching her face. I think so. That could have gone much worse. It isn't over. The council, I know. Maya cupped his face, watching his patterns pulse against her palms. 3 days to decide if I stay or go. If we can make this work, you have a choice too, Thalon said softly. Your mission, your people, Earth. I'm asking you to give up so much. Maya looked up at the brightening sky. At Vespera's first true dawn in millennia, my mission was to understand this world. I think I've succeeded beyond anything my superiors imagined. She smiled. As for Earth, it will always be where I'm from. But you, Thalon, you're where I want to be. I want that too. But I fear what I'm asking of you. Then let me be clear. Maya pulled him close, feeling the familiar thrum of connection between them. I choose you. I choose this world. I choose the possibility of building something new between our peoples. And yes, it's terrifying. Yes, it's complicated. But Thalon, I've never been more certain of anything. His kiss tasted of relief and promise. When they parted, the sun had fully risen, bathing the heart grove in warm golden light that transformed every crystal into a prism of rainbow fire. A new age, Thalon murmured, wonder in his voice. For Vespera, Maya agreed. And for us. They stood together as the world transformed around them to beings from different stars, holding tight to what they'd found. The path ahead would be difficult. The council might still refuse. Her research organization would have questions. Both their peoples would need time to accept what they represented. But the dawn had come to Vespera after epochs of twilight, and that felt like benediction. Like the universe itself was saying that some changes were worth the courage required to face them. Whatever the council decides, Thalon said, I won't give you up. If they exile me, I'll go with you to the stars. If they accept you, I'll spend my life making Vespera feel like home. Then we face it together, Maya said simply, no matter what comes. The crystals sang around them, their ancient voices carrying new harmonics, the sound of dawn breaking, of boundaries dissolving, of love choosing itself against all odds. And somewhere in those crystalline depths, a new memory was being recorded. The story of a human and a Vesperan who looked at each other across the gulf between worlds and said, You, I choose you. The sun climbed higher, painting everything in shades of gold and promise. It was morning on Vespera. It was the beginning of everything.